In 1969, I was a 9-year-old. I distinctly remember Kyle Army sitting at the entrance to Crowthorne Corner, hanging on the fence, watching racing at Kyle Army and getting absolute chills. One of my favorite cars, for only 1 year, was this Team Gunston Ford Capri Perana V8. 54 years, if my mathematics is right. I'm here with the man, the father, the guy who built this thing, Corrie Potgieter. Corrie, I've got goosebumps. What does it feel like for you to be reunited with your car?
Unbelievable feeling.
And
Just to see what I built in those days.
and go back to 1969. It's a long, long time ago, and you're working for Basil Green, and this crazy idea comes up to build a Piranha race car, V8 racing car. The bits and pieces that you had available at that time, how did you go about it?
Basil was very friendly with the US, and he had contacts there to get hold of a GT40 and strip it down and have a look what we can do, which he did, and we copied a lot of the design of the GT40 and put it into the Capri.
So you got the GT40, if I'm right, and a little bit of research I did. You used the motor and suspension and brakes.
Well, the suspension is all made by, yeah. The brakes, we used Jaguar brakes or something. I can't remember, but it was all bits and pieces and joined together and fabrication, and a lot of work went into it, and until we finally got what we wanted.
Now, in this car's life of 50 odd years, lots of people have had it. How do you know, when you're building these things, you end up doing bits and pieces on the car. And anybody who's built a racing car can have a look at a car and say, yeah. But there's a couple of things that happen on it. Can you point out some of the crazy things that or the things that are your signature on this car?
Well, for a start, I built a front suspension. The wishbones and the wishbone mounting points, this was all fabricated in here to accept the new wishbone. And uprights, we used the GT40 uprights with the magnesium. And to make them work with the steering geometry, we cut the one arm off the magnesium strut and welded a new one on.
Welded onto magnesium.
The magnesium, yes. And that's what caused Basil to crash into the wall at where was Sunset. Because the bloody arm broke off and Basil couldn't steer where he wanted to go.
It's not the easiest material to weld on. How did you go about welding magnesium?
To fabricate, well, a steel upright, yeah, which I did, under Basil's supervision, of course, and it worked out well. So we put all the stuff from the magnesium magnesium upright into a fabricated steel one that we made.
When you see this car, and we've spent 10, 15 minutes talking about it, the memories of that time must come flooding back, and the sounds, the smell, the people, and the emotions of racing.
That is in my mind all my life. I'll never forget this episode.
And so that you build the car, and then you take it to Kyalami for the first race. And who did you have to beat? And tell us about that first practice session when they came in.
Well, Peter Goff, he had the lap record, and it was the fastest thing around. Nobody could beat him until the 181 came out, and it went around. In the first lap, it went around. It was 4 seconds a lap quicker than the golf car. And I'll never forget people walking around with their stopwatches, looking at the times and said, whoa. 4 seconds a lap.
I mean, that is an absolute game changer.
Yeah, it was.
And it was built to the then Group 5 regulations, which at the end of the year they changed again. So it only ran for 1 year, this particular car.
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
And then it went to the A2, which was that was Group 2 car, am I right?
Yeah, I went to the Group 2, which was production based, because we had to build 100 of them to make it a legal racing car.
But you could say that this is production based. It's got Capri body and Capri stuff and lights, but all the running gear, that's all proper racing stuff.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it has its connections, but this is a completely different car in those days to what the other ones were.
And at the end of the year, rules changed, so you built some new cars. And then what happened to this car?
It was parked in Basil Green Workshop, and the spiders crawled in and out, and the rats and everything. And I used to give it a clean every now and again, and just started it to make sure it started. And it stood there for, I'm not sure how long, but it stood there for quite a long time, until some guy in Windhoek bought it. Basil sold it to him for, I don't know how much.
It's quite sad that, in a lot of ways, that a car that is such a game changer, it changed top-class saloon car racing in this country. After 1 year, it was effectively a useless car. It was no longer eligible. And it stood. It's quite sad in a way.
Yeah. As I say, it stood there for a long time, and then it went to Namibia, and then George Cavalieri, Georgia, he found it, or whatever, he found out where it was, and he went and bought it. And by that time it had been butchered a bit, because some guys were playing with it, and they cut the floorboard out and all kinds of things. And Georgia brought it back, and he asked me if I want to rebuild it, which I accepted his offer, and I started rebuilding the car.
So you had 2 goes at it. One, you built it originally. Then when Georgia has it years later, you redo it.
He wanted me to rebuild it as it was when it was new.
When it first came out of the shop.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that kind of brings us in between. Georgia had the car, and it kind of brings us to today, because this is the 3rd time.
It's exactly what I was saying. This is like another reincarnation again, because I did fiddle around with in between. So I mean, this car is part of my life.
And I'm almost lost for words, because the emotions I've got as a spectator bystander are rather large. I can just imagine part of your life more like a child, or in fact, it could be a child of yours that you built it, you gave birth to it, you taught it through its teenage years, and it's come back to you as an adult for a discussion.
It is really strange, and I love it. It's the way things were worked out.
Absolutely blown. Let's have a discussion with Franco and talk some more about the car now.